Hi, Noobers. Today I want to talk about hardcore in computer, and not so much in games. I'll start again with the background. In childhood, like most middle class families, we didn't have a computer. There were only special gaming salons, where fierce fucked up reigned in the 90s. You walk in, and at the entrance, older boys are already guarding you and taking a closer look at you. Are there any Babchansky ones around you? Naturally, you say that you already signed up and paid for everything an hour ago. You come in, pay, as I remember now, $3, and they give you the opportunity to settle for a gorgeous, shit stained energy drinking monster called Pentium 3 for a whole hour. There were about 10 games installed there, but it was considered not too bad to play only three these are Warcraft, Counter Strike, and Diablo. When the time ran out, they simply cut off your power. But since I was smart and I quickly organized a business on small larvae, which were constantly being cut in GTA Vice City. For a fee, I entered them codes for weapons, tank, endless health, and so on. But since the larvae had limited finances, I had no choice but to go home. So you understand how much I wanted my own computer. I can say that every summer in the village, I asked my friend, who at that time already had a computer in the city, and he told me on a piece of paper how to install games, what megabytes are, system requirements, and so on. And so, when I finally asked for myself to study, ha ha ha, computer, and not a simple one, but the most perfect Pentium 4 at that time. Naturally, I immediately began installing all the games. Since I was already familiar with most of the games from gaming salons, they weren't particularly difficult for me. For the first time, I encountered real hardcore in Gothic 2. Back then, in my childhood years, I didn't even imagine that there were such complex games where you had to take into account everything. She was so captivating that I didn't realize that it was just a game. It seemed to me that this was all for real. I was really afraid to go into the forest, but in the city I felt safe. I had to think about how to get around and how to kill the monster. The usual mindless clicking didn't help after this game. I never encountered such a feeling of hardcore and danger again until I came across the Dark Souls series. Everyone around me insisted that this was a very difficult game, but I couldn't believe it because the gaming industry was sliding down the casual mountain. Games with their own self-regenerating health, checkpoints at every turn, and so on. The first game in the series for me was Dark Souls 2. The first time in it, I was killed 10 seconds after the start of the game because I thought the dogs in the bushes were an easy experience. After 20 seconds, a troll ate me with my ass, and then I immediately realized that the game is excellent. I squeezed the point, and after 30 minutes, I hit the monster and ran away in horror, laying down the brick road until it fell behind. I still defeated him. And this is only the first monster, I told myself. Then, when a pig killed me in the city, I realized that this game does not challenge you. It wanted to kill on you. It was made to humiliate you, to mock. These Japanese are sick bastards. They hate their players, fans of Dark Souls from repulsed masochists. It's a very strange feeling when you realize that this crap is made to make you suffer. But I still couldn't stop and played on. As a result, less was enough for exactly 3 bosses. There were 3 of them in one. I spent a continuous 10 hours on them. And I couldn't. I've never been bombed like that before, I swore, spat at the screen. In the end, I accepted that I installed cheats for casual people. I ran through the plot and calmed down. Shame on me. Yes, yes, yes. But it was even worse when months. I came across a Let's Play where a guy took 2 maces and just stoned these 3 ghouls, and took turns and dealt with them in a few seconds. At that moment, I realized that my skin was turning brown. I had nuts in me and I smell of sulfur. But I quickly rehabilitated by simply calling guys our nerds. But the imprint remains for life. So when Dark Souls 3 came out, for me it was compare meetings with an ex-girlfriend, with whom you broke up on a negative note. Okay, she just whipped me off. In general, having overcome my fears, I still installed her in order to settle scores with this bastard. And what did I see? I passed the first boss the first time. The first time. I was already thinking, what? Darko is not the same anymore? Instead of a troll's ass, Now you could be eaten by a lizard. But after a couple of attempts, you realize that it was still far from being a troll's ass. While I was imposing, after half an hour of torment, I still somehow defeated this evil. In fact, he just fell off the cliff himself. And I realized no, it's still the same good old ultra-violence, only with his ass. But just as for the sake of note, the game has become, if not much, but 20–30% easier. This time, I completed the game without much suffering, spending about 6 and 8 attempts on each boss. 6 to 8. Playing on a computer has become much more convenient. Now you can turn the mouse, you turn both the camera and the character himself. The design, environment, and bosses all have the same Japanese flavor, and it's awesome. The atmosphere in the game is simply amazing. Just look at the opening video, which sets the whole mood of the game. The sounds, music, voice acting of the characters are all done at their best. I won't say anything about the plot, since for ordinary mortals, it simply doesn't exist. But personally, I don't like it, and I didn't understand. And for sweaty nerds, there are already a bunch of channels dedicated to purely theories on the plot of Dark Souls, where young academicians, cooler than me, will tell how they, from the description of the underpants of the ancient Ariandel Titan, are trying to make conspiracy theories about the plot. Summing up, I want to say that I have Dark Souls. I really liked it. This is a completely unique gaming experience. You can love it or you can hate it, but it's definitely impossible to remain indifferent. In general, if you are not a pregnant housewife who can cry from a couple of dozen deaths, I highly recommend it. Thank you all so much for watching.